सर जतिन और जितेश को लेने आते हैं उनके नंबर आपके पास में सर बता रहे हैं सबके पास
मेरे पास तो नहीं मिलेगा, मेरे पास कैसे मिलेगा?
Chapter number 8 Public Facilities.
स्टूडेंट की बच्चे में नाम वो नहीं है, किसी के नंबर है।
नंबर तो पुराने वाले हैं।
हाँ।
One of the most important features of public facility is that its benefit is shared by all. The role of the government. Since public facilities are essential services, it is the responsibility of the government to provide these services to all. As we have read last year, private establishments operate for profit, and in case of most public facilities, there is hardly any chance of earning profit. For instance, no company would be interested in organizing a pulse polio campaign or for that matter an anti-malaria campaign, as there are no chances of earning profit. On the other hand, if a private company is handed the task of organizing water supply, it will gladly do so. It will supply water tankers or sell sealed water bottles at exorbitant prices that very few can afford. Those who will not be able to pay will be deprived of this facility and the opportunity of leading a good life. In a democratic setup, the government aims to establish a welfare state. So it is the duty of the government to ensure equitable distribution of public facilities to all its citizens. Public facilities can be equated with basic needs, necessities essential for survival. It is the duty of the government to make sure that basic needs of all its citizens are fulfilled. In fact, Article 21 of the Constitution guarantees right to life for all citizens, and public facilities are acknowledged as part of this right. However, at times, the government assigns the task of providing public facilities like education, electricity, roads, etc. to private companies. For instance, the RPG Group manages power distribution in Kolkata. Similarly, in cities like Delhi, Mumbai, and Ahmedabad, power distribution is managed by private sectors. Both the government as well as the private organizations run educational institutions and hospitals. Cost of public facilities. Putting together and making available public facility to the people is an expensive affair. For instance, to supply electricity, the government has to set up power stations and substations, lay down lines, and so on. All these activities require a lot of investment. A part of the money for all these activities comes from taxes, government's main source of income, and part of it from charging a price for the facility. The price is set keeping in mind the spirit of the Constitution, that is right to equality, so that everybody's basic requirements are fulfilled. On the contrary, private sector's main agenda is to earn maximum profit, and so they charge exorbitant prices for the services they provide. As a result, the underprivileged are deprived of access to these facilities, which at times becomes a cause of unrest and disharmony in society. Therefore, people are of the view that facilities essential for the well-being of the citizens should be managed and controlled by the government. Distribution of public facilities. Even though the government tries to provide public facilities to all its citizens at cheap rates, yet at times it is incapable of supplying enough to meet every person's requirement. For instance, power cut is a persistent problem faced by a majority of states in India, in spite of the attempts made by the government to overcome this shortfall. In such situations, the underprivileged classes suffer the most. The affluent and the influential have the necessary resources at their disposal to buy facilities from private suppliers in case government supply falls short. But the poor cannot manage to pay for facilities for private suppliers. Water, a fundamental right. If we look at water supply, a public facility of great importance, the situation seems to be grim. Water is essential for survival of all living beings, and safe drinking water is even more necessary for leading a healthy life. Even the Constitution of India recognizes access to water as a part of right to life, guaranteed under Article 21. It means that it is the right of every human being, whether rich or poor, to have access to adequate quantity of water to fulfill their requirements at a price that they can pay for. Time and again, the judiciary has upheld in its decision that right to save water for personal and domestic consumption is every citizen's right. In 2007, Andhra Pradesh High Court reaffirmed this while hearing a case based on a letter written by a villager of Mehboob district on contamination of groundwater used for irrigation and drinking by a textile company. The judge directs the Mehboob district collector to supply 25 litre of water to each villager. There is great inequality in water usage too. People living in slums face acute water shortage. In fact, according to the Urban Water Commission, on an average, a person in urban India needs 7 buckets or 135 litres of water per day. But in reality, the situation is quite different. The wealthy might be using 50 to 60 litres of water per day, and the poor might have to do with just 1 bucket. Due to over-exploitation of groundwater, its levels have gone down. As a result, urban areas frequently face water crisis, especially during summers. To meet the demands, authorities have to bring in water from the surrounding rural areas. This affects the water supply of rural areas, which ultimately becomes a cause of resentment and conflict. Private companies benefit from this situation as they take this opportunity to increase their profit share by selling bottled water. In search of alternatives, there is no denying the fact that many cities in our country face severe water crisis, especially during summer months. Many people are of the opinion that since the government has not been able to supply such an important public facility like water, it should hand over the job to private companies. In fact, shortage of municipal water is regarded as a failure on the part of the government. The private companies work for profit, but their performance is certainly better. Nevertheless, handing over the task of supplying water to private group is not an ideal situation if we carefully look at the following facts. In certain cases, like Bolivia, where the task of water distribution was given to private companies, there was phenomenal rise in prices of water and the poor could no more afford water. It led to the outbreak of a revolt and the government was forced to roll back its decision. On the other hand, there is the example of Porto Alegre in Brazil, where the city's water department has achieved remarkable success in providing safe drinking water to all its citizens. As a result, there has been a significant decline in infant deaths. The prices are kept low and the poor have to pay only the basic rate. The profit that the water department makes is reinvested for improving water supply. In fact, the people of the city get to decide which project would serve their interest better. In our country too, there are instances of successful handling of water distribution by the government. The water supply department in Mumbai generates enough revenue to cover its expenses. Similarly, a recently published report indicates that the water supply department of Hyderabad has not only increased its distribution coverage but has also increased its revenue collection. The Chennai Water Department has undertaken measures like rainwater harvesting to restore groundwater levels. It has engaged private companies on contract in transportation and distribution of water, but has fixed the rates of water tankers to prevent overcharging from customers. Apart from providing clean drinking water, the government needs to look into the sanitation aspect to prevent spreading of waterborne diseases. According to the official statistics of 2001, 68% households in India have access to clean drinking water, while only 36% have toilet facilities within its premises. Thus, sanitation coverage is poorer than water supply coverage. The situation is grim in both rural as well as urban areas. As discussed in the chapter, the Constitution of India recognizes right to education, water and health, etc. as right to life. Therefore, it is the government's responsibility to ensure that all citizens have equal access to these public facilities. However, the real state of affairs is far from satisfactory. There is not only shortage of supply, but inequality in distribution too. As per 2001 census, only 44% rural population have access to electricity, the rest 56% live in dark. Similarly, in spite of the fact that the Constitution guarantees right to education for all children between the age of 6 to 14, yet only a meager population has access to this facility. This inequality in distribution of public facilities becomes even starker when we compare urban and rural areas or wealthy localities with poor localities. Thus, handing over distribution of public facilities to private companies may not be the correct choice. It is essential to bear in mind that all citizens have the right to enjoy the public facilities, and we should find a solution that must ensure equitable allocation of facilities.